The folks behind XState have just released their first IDE, which allows you to drag and drop, create your own state machines. It's really cool. It's integrated into VS Code, and I can't wait to show it to you. So if you're not familiar with XState, it's a way of building your business logic using finite state machines that makes it almost impossible for your app to get into a bad state. Let's check it out. Hi, I'm Jack Herrington, a principal full-stack software engineer, and while I'm going to show you XState in this case on the UI, it's actually great on the server, or in particular for like a game engine. It's a fantastic way to model your state. And what you have when you model your state in XState is you have 5 primitives. You have states, you have transitions between states, you have events that go into that state machine that trigger those transitions, and then you've got actions and services. And so we are going to re-implement a React app that uses hooks using a state machine. All right, so let's go take a look at our example app. All right, so over here in our React app, we have a list on the left-hand side of some Pokemon, of course. So you can click on a Pokemon and yes, you'll get the detail about that Pokemon, and you can go and scrub through a set of pages. So how does this work? Well, let's go over and take a look at our code. And it's a create React app. So it has a public directory, and in that public directory, it has the usual assets, but it also has directories, Pokemon, and pages. And then within pages, you've got page 0, which gives you the total number of pages as page count. And then it gives you a list of all the Pokemon on that page. And it just has the ID and the name, which is enough to drive this list over here. And then when you click on that, we go to the Pokemon directory and get whatever that corresponding ID is. So in this case, ID 1 is Bulbasaur, and here's all the information about it. And here is a picture of a Bulbasaur. Okay, so how does this work on the React side? Well, here's our app.js file. And right over the top, we bring in a custom hook called use Pokemon. And that use Pokemon gives us a bunch of values and functions that allow us to drive the UI. So in this case, we have a Boolean for error, and when error is true, then we show a little error prompt. We have the page count, which is the total number of pages that we then send to our pages component. We also have set current page, which is a function that we give to the onClick. It takes a page number and then sets the page count. We have the list of Pokemon, which is given to the Pokemon list as an array. And then we have the set selected Pokemon ID, which is a function which is bound to the onClick. That takes an ID and sets the selected Pokemon, which triggers the fetch, which then sets selected Pokemon, and which we then use to drive the Pokemon and Pokemon image components. So I'm not going to drill too much into these components. They're pretty standard, and of course, all of the code is available to you on GitHub. But let's go take a look over at our custom hook because it is pretty informative. So right at the top, we have this really cool use reducer. So even if you don't use any of the XState stuff from this video, I think you're going to really enjoy this particular use dispatch. So here we have our use dispatch. This is where we're going to store all the data. So the data is right here, and it's basically an object. But the really cool part is this reducer function here. So it takes the original value of the state, and then it takes an object with the updated fields, and it just returns a new object that has the original state with the new update overriding it. And so if we look down here, we can see that we return out that object that we're destructuring over in the app.js, and a lot of it is connected just directly to the state. But there are some functions that we use callback to create. Now I'm choosing to use callback here because it's inside of a custom hook, and I use callback inside of custom hooks. You don't necessarily have to do that, but that's what I do. Not really the important part though. In this case, the important part is that, for example, this set current page is taking a new current page value and just dispatching that value using that dispatcher, which then just overwrites that one particular field. Okay, so let's go take a look at those use effects because that's really what's driving the action here. So this use effect loads the list of Pokemon, and this use effect loads just the particular Pokemon. So let's take a look at that list loader. So it's going to key off of the current page, and when that current page changes, which it does at the very beginning because it goes from undefined to 0, it first removes the selected Pokemon. That just gets rid of any previous selection. As you go between pages, you want to make sure that that Pokemon disappears. And then it goes off and does the fetch. So it fetches, it parches that JSON, and then when it works, it actually dispatches using that cool dispatch function, the updated page count and the list of Pokemon. And then in the case of an error, it just dispatches the error true. Similar sort of thing as we look down here at the Pokemon fetcher. So we just see if we have a selected Pokemon, and if we do, then we go off when we get that Pokemon and we dispatch the update. So pretty simple. And of course, all of this code is available to you for free. So if you like this and you like this reactive style of hook programming, then yeah, feel free to use this as a template in your application. But of course, I don't want to do that. I want to go and play with XState. So let's go back over here, and I'm going to go and paste in a replacement for the values here coming out of use Pokemon. So we're just going to set error to false. We're going to set page count to 0, set some stubs here with the Pokemon list and all that. And this is just some stubs that's going to allow us then to go and build out our state machine and start repopulating these values. So let me hit save and make sure that we have an app still. Okay, so we've got a fairly ugly looking app. So let's go over to Stately, this new visual editor for our XState applications. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and this is our starting state machine. So I'll go and rename this. We'll name this Pokemon Viewer. And what am I looking at here? Well, I'm looking at a state. So we got that first state. We've got a second state here, and those are discrete states. We've got a transition that goes between those two. That's modeled as a line. So you can go from first state to second state, but that's it. That's the only thing you can do. And to trigger that, you would trigger it using an event named cleverly event. Cool. Okay. So I actually don't want this second state. I'm just going to start off with a first state, and our first state is going to be get Pokemon list. So that's the first thing our app needs to do. It needs to get that initial list of Pokemon, right? So I'm just going to go and save this, and I'll put it in my Pokemon Viewer app. I'll bring it back into the screen, and then I will export it using JSON. And I'll just bring it in here as a file called Pokemon Viewer.json and paste it in. So what's in our state machine? Well, we have the ID, Pokemon Viewer, we have the initial state, and then we have the list of states. So the initial state is get Pokemon list, and wouldn't you believe it, there's one state called get Pokemon list. Pretty simple state machine, actually doesn't do anything at all. So to instantiate this, we need to create that machine. So we're going to create another file called Pokemon Viewer machine.js, and it is going to import create machine from XState. And then it's going to import that definition that we just pasted in there, the Pokemon Viewer from that Pokemon Viewer JSON file. And then it's just going to export as default a create machine invocation where we give it that spec for our Pokemon Viewer machine. So now let's go and use that. We'll go over to app.js. And the way that we need to bind that into React is to use a hook, the use machine hook from XState React. Now, XState is platform agnostic. You could use it in Vue. You can use it on the server. You could use it with a game engine. Anything that runs JavaScript can run XState. But in order to get it to talk to React, you have to bring in the XState React library and then use the use machine hook. So let's go do that. So I'm going to bring in use machine from that XState React, and I'm going to bring in my machine, my instantiation of the machine, Pokemon Viewer machine, and then I will do use machine and give it that Pokemon Viewer machine. And this actually gives me two values back in an array. So the first one is the current state of the machine. And the second one is a send function that allows me to send a message to that machine. So I'm just going to go down here and console log out the value of the state machine. And let's go take a look and see what that's come up with. So I hit refresh. Now nothing's changed on the UI. And I'll go to the inspector here. And we'll see over in the console, we have get Pokemon list. So the get Pokemon list is the current state as defined here. So looks good. So what do we need to do in our get Pokemon list? Well, we need to make that fetch call. And in XState, fetch calls and anything asynchronous is modeled as a service. So let me click on get Pokemon list, and you need to invoke a service. I'm going to click plus on the invocations, and then I'm going to fetch current page. I can name it anything I want, not defined at this point. And that fetch current page is going to go off and do that fetch. So XState has automatically gone and created two events for us. The first is done. Basically says that the fetch current page service is done. And then there's also error, saying that there was an error. So let's work off that done event first. So in the case of done, so done fetch current page, what do I want to do? Well, I want to show the list. So set show Pokemon list. Right? And we also want to handle the error state. So I'll pull this again, and that's going to bring up the error on fetch current page. In this case, we'll go to the show error state. So if we're in the show error state, then, hey, we've had an error. We're just going to put up a little error warning and say, hey, we've had problem. So just to summarize, we now have three states. We've got our get Pokemon list state over here. We've got a transition to show the Pokemon list if we have a successful done from our fetch service. And then if we have an error over here, then we go to our show error state. So our application always has to be in one of these three states. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so let's go and save this out as JSON, bring it back into our app, and see what we get. So we'll go over here to our Pokemon viewer, hit export JSON, go over here to our Pokemon viewer JSON, paste that in, and we can start to see that we've got really an object format here. The IDE is just building this up for us. So in this case, we've got the get Pokemon list state like we had before, but now we have this invocation to fetch current page. And when it's undone, we go to this show Pokemon list state. And when we get an error, we go to show error. Okay, seems okay. So let's go and take fetch current page here and go over to our Pokemon viewer machine, because we need to actually implement that, right? We don't get that for free. So the way that we do that is we create a second argument here on create machine, and we tell it we have services, and we define that service. So fetch current page in this case takes a context, which is the data in the state machine, and then an event. So we're going to store the current page in that context. So we actually don't need that event, but we do need the code to go and do the fetch. So let's go back over here to our use Pokemon and go and grab that code. I'm just going to grab the fetch and then the first then, and that's going to convert it into JSON for us from the basic buffer format. And now I'm going to take context and replace state with context. And how do we define the context? Well, we put another key on here called context. And then in there, we define that the current page is 0. And I'm also going to do a default to 0. So if that's not set, then we'll just start off at 0. And let's take a look. So if I hit save and I go back over to my React app and I hit refresh, we get the get Pokemon list. Cool. And then we get show Pokemon list. So we actually made the fetch. And we can go see that if we go over to our network panel and we get make this a little bit smaller. We can see that we have fetches to that data. Nice. Okay. So now we have the data in hand. The data is actually in this undone event over here. This done event has the data in it. Now we just need to store it somewhere. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to add an action to this particular transition. And I'll do that by clicking plus on this action down here. And I'll say the action is to save the Pokemon list. Now an action is synchronous. So we get that event and then we're going to go set the context with that event data. So now we need to go and export this again using JSON. And now I'll go into our Pokemon viewer JSON and paste it in there. So what do I need to do over here? Well, I need to go and implement on this save Pokemon list. So we'll create an actions key. And then within that, save Pokemon list. And I can do this a couple different ways, but I'm just going to go and set the context of the Pokemon list to the event data list. And then I'm also going to set the page count to that page count coming in. Okay, so we also need to default all that. So page count and Pokemon list. Cool. All right, let's give this a try. I'll hit refresh. And it looks like it's going okay. We don't really know yet. So let's go over to our app.js and see where this set got put. So I'm going to do another console log, and I'm going to console log out the context. So let's hit save. I'll hit refresh. And now we can see that we have a Pokemon list that has 10 items in it. We have a page count 5, so looks good. Okay, cool. So now we're going to start destructuring some stuff. So get rid of this, and this is an object. And we know that it's got a value in there. And we know that it's got context. And we have a page count and a Pokemon list. Cool, which can get rid of these. And then what about this error, right? So we have error false there. Well, we could just use the value of the state to decide whether we're in an error state or not. So I can say value, and then I can say, well, does it equal show error? Because if it equals show error, then we have an error. So let's try this out. Hey, it's looking pretty good. Nice. Okay, cool. So we don't respond to any of the page stuff yet, but we are getting this initial page. Not bad. Okay. But let's try that error state. So let's go over here to public and then mess ourselves up. So I'm going to say pages becomes poges, right? I misspelled that. Hit refresh, and look, we got our error. Okay, so nice. We have a good error state there. Change that back to pages and take a look, and we're good. Cool, nice. I'm digging on this. But I'm not digging on going back and forth between this and the browser all the time. So I'm going to go and take this JSON file, and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to go over to my Pokemon viewer machine, and I am going to go and paste it in there for that first value. Basically exactly the same thing. And hit save. And then I'm going to do open visual editor. And that's going to bring that right into my VS Code. How cool is that? So I'm going to go over here, get rid of the sidebar, and now we have a nice big place where we can look at our state machine in all its glory. Okay, so I'm going to bring show error down here, kind of keep this nice and tidy as we go. Fetch current page, looking pretty good. Okay, so what do I want to implement on next? Well, I want to implement on clicking on one of these. So I click on Venusaur, and I need to go and get the data. I also need to set that we have selected that IDE, and then we need to show it. So first things first, let us go and create an event that's going to trigger that. So we will call this event set selected Pokemon ID. And it is going to then trigger the change to the get Pokemon state. Let's see, can I make this even a little prettier? Yes, I can. Cool. All right, that's looking pretty good. All right, so I'm going to go over here and save that. And it looks like it's made all of those changes. So now I have my set selected Pokemon ID. So over here in the app, I'm going to start using this send. So that's how I'm going to send that event. So it's the Pokemon list that's going to allow me to click on the stuff. And it's going to have a function on click, which gets given an ID. And then I will call send and give it the type of set selected Pokemon ID. And I'll just give it that ID. So that ID will be a parameter on that event. Cool. Okay. So let's hit refresh, try it again, and nothing happens. Okay. So what do I need to do? Well, I need to go and store that selected Pokemon ID, right? So how do I do that? Well, I use an action for that. So let's go back over here, and I'll bring up my sidebar, and I'll add an action for save selected Pokemon ID, a nice big name like that. All right, so let's hit save. And now I'll go over here to my Pokemon viewer machine, and we can see that we have an action of save selected Pokemon ID. So let's go over here to our actions and go and implement on that. So actions, context, event, all that. And I want to set the selected Pokemon ID to the incoming event ID. Sounds good. So let's initialize that to null. Cool. And I think we want to go back over here just to see if that's actually happening. So let's go and just grab that data. We'll console log that out and see what we can see. All right, go bring up our console. So it's currently undefined. I click Carmelian and we get selected ID 5. Hey, okay, cool. All right, so this is good. We're actually getting a little movement here. So let's go over to our Pokemon viewer machine in the XState editor again. And now we want to go and do what we did before. We want to invoke a service, right? Because this is an asynchronous action. So we want to get the selected Pokemon, right? And we're going to have a done action. So we'll pull that off. Keep going on this one. And there we go. So we are done on our get selected Pokemon. And now we want to show the Pokemon. Okay, cool. And on this guy, what happens in an error case? So let's go and route the error back to show error. So now in the case of a get selected Pokemon error, we go back to that single show error case. Nice, right? Okay, so let's go and implement on get selected Pokemon. Definitely gonna need that. So that's gonna be another service. And again, we're gonna have the selected Pokemon in the context, so we don't need that. We need our fetcher. So let's go over to use Pokemon, go get our fetch, copy that out of there, paste it in here, and use context. Have I given it the same name, selected Pokemon ID? I think I did. That's nice. Okay. Could work. We'll see. Okay. So let's hit save, go over to our app, hit a couple of these. And do we really know? Well, we could actually go and take a look at our network. So let's go see network. And all things being equal, I should be able to click on this. And there we go. Yeah. So we get like a 5.json, meaning that we are now trying to get Carmelian. Cool. Okay, good. So that's good. Now we just need to go and do what we did here, which is to save that Pokemon list, except that we're going to save the Pokemon. So again, we need an action. You save the Pokemon. So, okay, let's go and save that out, and save Pokemon is going to be our action. Go down here, save Pokemon, and we will take the selected Pokemon and set it to the event data coming in. And we'll start it off at null. Cool. And now let's go over to our app, and we'll bring in selected Pokemon, which we had stubbed out to be null. All right, let's give this a try. And there we go. Nice. Okay, cool. But I noticed that if I click again, we are still in that mode. So what's happening is we are in the show Pokemon state. And when you send that selected Pokemon ID, it essentially just gets ignored, because the only time that the state machine is looking for set selected Pokemon ID is in the show Pokemon list. So what we need to do is have a transition with set selected Pokemon ID to go back up into here. So let's try that. So I will go to show Pokemon and I'll drag that up to here. And I will set that to set selected Pokemon ID. And I will also add that action of saving that Pokemon ID. Okay, cool. And let's see, let's tidy this up a little bit. Oh, looking good. Okay, cool. And I will save, and let's try this again. So click. Whoa, that is smooth. Okay, well, one more thing we need to do is handle this page stuff. And that's kind of interesting, right? We want that page event to work in either this mode or this mode. So what we can do is we can click on this, and then we can drag in from the side here a connection to get Pokemon list. We can say set current page. So that's the event. Let me see if I can clean this up a little bit. This is going to have me move everything down. Oy. Okay, let's move you down. Oh, okay. There you go. Nice. Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, something like that. So set current page, but it does need a way to save that data. So again, I'm going to apply an action to that. So save current page. So that will save the event data so we can then pick it up from the context. So let's save. So we are looking to dispatch set current page and then use the save current page action on it. So let's go build save current page first. So save current page, context, and we'll say the current page is the page coming in off of the event. All right, cool. And that will set that current page. And now we just need to dispatch that event. So what is it again? Set current page. Go over here, and that is from this onClick. So that is going to give us a page. And then from here, I'll just send and give it the type of set current page with the page. Okay, let's take a look. Hit refresh. Cool, looking good. And nice. It does do the page thing, but we keep the same Pokemon as we click around, so that's not good. So how do we do that? Well, we could go in, let's go tweak save current page. So we could add another action to clear the Pokemon if we wanted, or we could just clear up the Pokemon here, select a Pokemon, null, and selected Pokemon ID is also null. All right, let's give that a try. Click, 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 click. Yep, perfect. Awesome. So check this out, right? I mean, now we have an absolutely full and even honestly pretty view of our whole system, right? You have to be in one of these 5 states. We know all of the transitions between those states. They're clearly defined. The only direction that they can go, what the data is, what actions are going to be taken when we move from state to state. This is just a really, really nice way of modeling your business logic and making sure that in every single case, you've got all of your bases covered. So cool. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this introduction to XState and also to the new XState IDE. If you have any questions about that, be sure to put that in the comment section down below. But before I get into my little plug for the channel, I did want to give a special thanks to Patrick Muller, who did his first open source contribution ever to the Create MF app CLI tool. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Now, of course, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you really like the video, hit that subscribe button and click on that bell, and you'll be notified the next time a new Blue Collar Coder comes out.